Hi, welcome back to the basement. I'm Steve Lewis. Today we continue our in-depth look at U.S. pop culture in the year 1986. We're up to the third quarter now, the months of July, August, and September. And there's a lot going on in this quarter, so once again I think we'll split it into two episodes. This time we'll talk about music and movies. Next time we'll talk about television, a little bit about the news, and of course what the Beach Boys were up to. So let's start out by talking about the album chart. In contrast to a lot of other charts during this period where maybe half the albums on the chart would have been there in the top 10 for maybe months, there was a lot of turnover in the second quarter. On the first album chart of the third quarter, which came out on July 5th, 1986, at number one was Control by Janet Jackson. At the time, lots of people knew Janet Jackson as the little sister of the famous Jacksons or as Penny from Good Times. But a new Janet Jackson album certainly didn't seem like a major event. A&M Records had done a huge promotion trying to change that perception, and it had paid off. 3 months after its release, Control had reached the number one spot where it would stay for 2 weeks. At number two was Winner in You by Patti LaBelle. It'll follow Janet Jackson into the number one spot on July 19th. At number three was the Whitney Houston album, the only album still in the top 10 from the beginning of the second quarter. At number four was Like a Rock by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. This had peaked at number three for 4 weeks beginning May 24th. And it strikes me that it's a good thing for them that this album did well, because I can only imagine the fun the critics would have had with the title Like a Rock if it had bombed. At number five was So by Peter Gabriel. This will go to number two for 3 weeks beginning July 26th. Love Zone by Billy Ocean was in the second of 7 weeks at its number 6 peak. At number 7 was Van Halen's 5150. It had spent 3 weeks at number 1 beginning April 26th. At number 8 was the Top Gun soundtrack. It'll go to number 1 for 3 weeks beginning July 26th and then for another week on October 11th. At number 9 was the Moody Blues, The Other Side of Life in the second of its 4 weeks at its number 9 peak. And just entering the top 10 at number 10 was Invisible Touch by Genesis. This will go to number 3 on August 30th. In top singles as the quarter began, sitting at number 1 was There'll Be Sad Songs to Make You Cry by Billy Ocean. At number 2 was Holding Back the Years by Simply Red, a song unusual in 1986 for its acoustic sound. It'll hit number 1 the next week, July 12th. At its number 3 peak was Who's Johnny? Short Circuit Theme by El DeBarge. No One Is to Blame by Howard Jones was at its number 4 peak. All these years later, looking at that picture sleeve, I still gotta admire what a great haircut that was. My compliments to Howard Jones' barber. Nasty by Janet Jackson was at number 5. It'll reach number 3 on July 19th. At number 6, Invisible Touch by Genesis, which will go to number 1 on July 19th. Crush on You by the Jets was at number 7. It had spent the last 2 weeks of June at number 3. On My Own by Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald was at number 8. And at number 9 was Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. It was a strong single aided by a memorable video that combined live action, stop motion, claymation, and practically every other trick available at the time. I remember there was a lot of discussion about how did they do that. It'll win armloads of MTV Video Awards, including the top prize Video of the Year. The song will hit number 1 on July 26th. And at number 10 was Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins from the Top Gun soundtrack. It'll hit number 2 on July 26th. Top 10 singles that will come and go in the third quarter included Your Wildest Dream by the Moody Blues. It'll spend 2 weeks at number 9 beginning July 12th. Tough Enough by the Fabulous Thunderbirds will hit number 10 on July 12th. And Billy Joel's Modern Woman from Ruthless People will hit number 10 on July 26th. This is a song I didn't notice much at the time, but now I really enjoy it for its extremely 80s sound. Glory of Love, theme from Karate Kid 2 by Peter Cetera, will spend the first 2 weeks of August at number 1. Opportunities, Let's Make Lots of Money by the Pet Shop Boys will hit number 10 on August 2nd. Former Go-Go's lead singer Belinda Carlisle was having a lot of success with her first solo single, Mad About You. This will go to number 3 for 2 weeks beginning August 9th. Jermaine Stewart assured us that we don't have to take our clothes off to have a good time. Which is good news, especially if your idea of a good time is cooking fondue or riding dirt bikes. This will go to number 5 for 2 weeks beginning August 9th. Love touch, love touch, love touch. Theme from Legal Eagles by Rod Stewart will hit number 6 on August 9th. And Madonna's Papa Don't Preach will spend 2 weeks at number 1 beginning August 16th. This is another song that was helped by a video getting a lot of airplay on MTV. The lyrics are dramatized through a mini movie intercut with Madonna lip syncing and dancing. It ensured the song would get a lot of attention. Wham's The Edge of Heaven single will go to number 10 for 2 weeks beginning August 16th. Given the context of the times, this photo always looks to me like George Michael cannot wait to get away from Andrew Ridgeley. Rumors by Timex Social Club will hit number 8 twice, once on August 16th and again on August 30th. And Steve Winwood's Higher Love will go to number 1 on August 30th. Winwood scored with a stylish video for Higher Love featuring quick cuts between color and black and white, Winwood lip syncing with his band, dancers, studio, and location shots. Undoubtedly, it helped propel the song to the top of the chart. Unlike many of his 60s and 70s contemporaries who struggle with creative and chart success in the 80s, Winwood will have a great second half of the decade with 8 more top 20 hits through 1990. Sweet Freedom! Theme from Running Scared by Michael McDonald will spend 3 weeks in the number 7 position beginning August 30th, and Bananarama's cover of Shocking Blues' 1970 number 1 hit, Venus, will go to number 1 for them on September 6th. Take My Breath Away. Love Theme from Top Gun by Berlin will go to number 1 on September 13th. Baby Love by Regina will spend 2 weeks at number 10 beginning September 13th. Words Get in the Way by Miami Sound Machine will hit number 5 on September 20th. And Love Zone by Billy Ocean will peak at number 10 on September 27th. Big new album releases in the third quarter included on July 1st, Music from the Edge of Heaven by Wham! It'll go to number 10 for 2 weeks beginning August 23rd. And on July 7th, we got Eat 'Em and Smile by David Lee Roth, the former Van Halen frontman's first full-length solo album. It'll hit number 4 for 2 weeks beginning August 30th. Also released on that day, and of interest to Beach Boy fans, was Made in the USA, yet another Beach Boys double best-of album, this one containing 2 new tracks. Of course, we'll talk more about this in an upcoming episode. Released on July 9th was The Bridge by Billy Joel. On July 14th, Bananarama's True Confessions album was released. It'll reach number 15. On the 22nd of July, Word Up by Cameo. It will eventually hit number 8 on December 20th, 1986. On August 5th came Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling album, and on August 9th, Tina Turner's Break Every Rule. This will go to number 4 on November 8th. On August 18th came a big album from a heavily promoted new act, Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi. Released on August 25th was Graceland by Paul Simon. Paul Simon seemed about as far out of sync with the times as you could get in 1986, so it'll take a little while before this one starts to get any widespread attention. Also released in August was an album by an Australian rock band, Crowded House's self-titled album, which will go to number 12 early in 1987. Released on November 15th was Cyndi Lauper's True Colors album, which will go to number 4 for 2 weeks beginning November 15th. Released on September 19th was Give Me the Reason by Luther Vandross, which will go to number 14 in the fall. Released on September 20th was 4 by Huey Lewis and the News, and Whiplash Smile by Billy Idol. This will reach number 6 on December 13th. Released on September 23rd was Third Stage by Boston. When Boston's second album came out in 1978, 2 years after their debut, I thought they'd waited too long to follow up. Clearly I was wrong. The second album did better than the first album. When this came out 8 years after the second album, I thought for sure times had passed them by, and this would soon bounce into the cutout bins. As we'll soon see, I called it wrong again. Released on September 29th was Somewhere in Time by Iron Maiden, which will go to number 11. A couple of albums from earlier in the year are now starting to get noticed. Released back on April 1st was The Way It Is by Bruce Hornsby and the Range. This will start to catch on in the fall. Also, Anita Baker's Rapture album, which had been released on March 20th, was heading up the chart and will peak at number 11 early in the fall. Moving on to notable movie releases in the third quarter, on July 2nd came Under the Cherry Moon. Prince not only starred in but also directed the follow-up to his 1984 hit movie Purple Rain. Unlike Purple Rain, this is a critical and box office bomb. It'll disappear from theaters pretty quickly and will receive Golden Raspberry Awards for the Worst Director and Worst Film of the Year. Another of the summer's blockbusters, Aliens, was released on July 18th. Sigourney Weaver was back in the intense action sci-fi sequel to 1979's Alien. It'll wind up as the 5th highest grossing movie in a very competitive year. By contrast, Howard the Duck, released on August 1st, was a bomb of historical proportions. The lead character was unconvincing, creepy, and unlikable. The story was dull and the humor fell completely flat. I can't believe anybody involved in this thought it was any good. You really got the feeling that they thought its chances of success depended on audiences being stupid. The critics are merciless, and audiences who bother to show up aren't much kinder. On August 8th came She's Gotta Have It, a Spike Lee joint. It's written, directed by, and featuring Spike Lee in his first feature film. It was a comedy shot in black and white on a minuscule budget. It had the look and feel of a student film, but also had a lot of charm and got good reviews and did well at the box office. On August 18th came The Fly, a big-budget science fiction film with impressive special effects. It was a bigger and darker remake of the 1958 original, starring Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Opening in wide release on August 22nd was Stand By Me, a coming-of-age film directed by Rob Reiner based on a novella by Stephen King. It'll get generally excellent reviews and become a box office success. Released on September 19th was Blue Velvet. David Lynch wrote this crime mystery and directed it in his unique, slightly surrealist, almost hallucinogenic style. It starred Kyle MacLachlan, Isabella Rossellini, Dennis Hopper, and Laura Dern. Opening on September 24th was The Name of the Rose. Based on the 1980 novel of the same name, it starred Sean Connery as William of Baskerville, a 14th century Franciscan monk investigating a murder mystery. The big blockbuster of the fall opened on September 26th. The comedy Crocodile Dundee starred Paul Hogan as a native of the Australian outback on his first visit to New York City. Hogan was known in America for his appearances in commercials for the Australian Tourist Commission. Since 1984, he had been offering to slip another shrimp on the Barbie for us. Crocodile Dundee was another of the fish out of water stories that were becoming increasingly popular. It'll end up being the 3rd highest grossing movie of the year. So that's where we'll leave it for this episode. If you've gotten this far in the video, obviously you got through all the singing. Some of those song titles just seem like they need to be sung, so sorry about that. I guess I should especially apologize to Michael McDonald. I can't hear a Michael McDonald song title without hearing it in his voice and having to take a go at trying to imitate it, though I don't do it very well, as you probably observed. Anyway, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. I look forward to your comments on this. Next time we will wind up the third quarter of 1986. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't. Have a great week, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.